What's up, Missouri Tiger fans? It is Tuesday, September 9th, and a big weekend at Faurot Field. Missouri Tigers take care of business against our hated rivals, the Kansas Jayhawks, who they are a pretty good team. Jalen's a really good quarterback. A lot of the fears that I had, some of those questions that we went over last week heading into that game, were answered at least up until this point in the season. Quarterback, offensive line, defense, kicker, all that good stuff we're going to get into. But what I want to talk about today is Missouri's schedule and the remaining schedule. We actually find ourselves finally in the AP 25. We're right at 25. I think we're just right outside of it for the coaches poll, which is fine. Tigers haven't really done anything to deserve being in there, but when you apply that case to all the teams, you're kind of wondering, well, why are we holding ourselves to that standard? And for me, I'm just to the point to where I want to see the Tigers do something, which means actually beating some of the top teams, which we haven't been able to do in Coach Drinkwitz's tenure here at Missouri. Taking just a test of what other people think of Missouri across the nation, which I know is kind of a dangerous thing to do, because let's face it, nobody really cares about Missouri outside of Columbia. And I think a lot of the times, especially with us being in the SEC, nobody thinks we should be in the SEC. That's fine. But all we can do, all Coach Drink can do, and the boys that wear the Tiger uniform, just go out there and play the game that is on the schedule. And the schedule has been kind of a hot topic early on this week because of something like this.
Missouri's off to a sneaky, pretty good start. Bo Perbula, that quarterback from Penn State, is very, very good. That running game is very good. Missouri is a sneaky playoff team.
Are you calling Missouri a playoff team because their schedule is
very manageable?
Because I thought Kansas actually should have won that football.
So Missouri won 42-31, won by 11 points. It was not an 11-point game at all. It was back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Missouri just threw the last punch. But I think Kansas is pretty good too. So Kansas is pretty good. I think Missouri's schedule is very, very, very manageable from here on out. The path to 10-2 for them is very easy.
Heck, the path to 11.
11-1 is
very, 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 very manageable. Missouri's schedule going forward. Let's just take a look at that very, 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 very manageable schedule, because I know a lot of people like to compare Missouri's schedule. Heading into the season, we were like, well, it's the worst or one of the worst ones in the SEC. It's still an SEC schedule, top 25, top 30. When you compare it with all the schedules for college football, we're still a top 25, top 30 schedule, right? So there is no real easy schedule in the SEC. But let's just take a look. I'm kind of curious. Bring up the graphic of the AP 25 that just came out. This is the latest AP poll. Missouri is number 25. And let's just take a look at this very, 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 very manageable schedule. It's going to come back and bite the Tigers when it comes to picking teams for the college football playoffs. There's a bias against the national media, let's say. And I'm just going to throw anybody that talks about college football on a national scale. And I think this is going to be the talking point. People are going to want to keep the Tigers out of the playoffs. And it's just not a legitimate one when you talk about the Tigers' schedule. Now we're in week 3 of the college football schedule here, and Tigers are 25. Let's just see who else the Tigers play that's remaining on this really easy schedule of theirs. They still have Auburn, who is now number 24. They have Alabama, who is now 19. They play Texas A&M, who is 16. They play Oklahoma, who is now 13. And they play South Carolina, who is number 11. I don't know how that's an easy schedule or how that is a very, 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 very manageable schedule. And let's bring up the graphic from ESPN on the remaining strength of schedule for all the teams. And the Tigers are towards the bottom quarter of the SEC there, with a remaining strength of schedule that is 22. And oh, by the way, they are ahead of the Volunteers, the Longhorns, and the Rebels. And those are 3 teams where people aren't going to be like, well, their schedule is very, 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 very manageable. This whole idea that there's a team in the SEC, and you can probably throw in the Big Ten a little bit, but the SEC, even when you have the weakest schedule in the SEC, it's not an easy schedule. It's relatively speaking. This is why the SEC commissioner, this is why they're going to enact that extra game is going to be against another SEC team, is because the strength of schedule. And for the college football playoffs, the selection criteria is going to weigh heavily on that strength of schedule. So to sit here and point to the Missouri Tigers and be like, well, they probably have a really good chance of making the college football playoffs because of their schedule. It's not an easy schedule. For people that follow college football, again, nationally, there's not a lot of likability with the Missouri Tigers. They're just not a sexy pick. And to be fair, the Tigers have disappointed almost every season in a sense that they start out in a place to where they are higher in the rankings, and then when it comes to a big game will fail. That's my biggest thing against these Tigers and Coach Drink's era is we don't have a legitimate blue blood victory that we can point to. If you're saying it's the Ohio State game and the bowl game 2 years ago, that's the problem. Saying that was our biggest win, therein lies the problem as a Missouri Tiger fan. Could this be the year? Absolutely it can. I still hold my initial thoughts heading into the season that this is probably Coach Drink's best team on paper. Prior to the Central Arkansas game, I had the Tigers going 7-5 this year, and that was before we knew Bo Pribula was going to be Bo Pribula. But now with 2 games under our belt, Bo looking fantastic. We have weapons all around him. The offensive line looked really good. For the Kansas game, the defense is getting there. That was a tough matchup against Jalen. I was almost ready to say I'm going to adjust that prediction and go 8-4, but when we lost Blake Craig, that right there is a huge killer for the Tigers going through the season. There's going to be 2 or 3 games it's going to come down to just the kicking game, and we are going to feel the loss of Blake Craig. So I am going to stick with my original prediction for the Tigers. They're going to go 7-5 for the season. I hope I am wrong, but that game against Kansas, they looked really, really good. A lot of room for improvement. I think the Tigers have a lot of upside still, but the next big test for the Tigers is going to be in 2 weeks when South Carolina comes in, another hard quarterback to game plan against Lenore Sellers. I am going to just kind of be like, let's just see what we do against South Carolina. If we can take care of South Carolina, which is not an easy bet, although I do think since the Tigers did really well there, it was close last year. That was a killer. That Luther Burden one-handed catch was amazing. I thought the Tigers had it there in South Carolina, but the game is here at Faurot Field. I think the Tigers are going to handle the business at Faurot Field, and not to overlook Louisiana, not to overlook UMass, but if the Tigers can get through at 5-0 with Alabama coming in, and Alabama is not the Nick Saban Alabama that we all have grown up with. If the Tigers are 5-0 heading into that Alabama game, that game is going to be huge just in the history of Missouri football and being able to finally beat Alabama. Thankfully, we have them at home. It's going to be a great game, but we've got 3 games before that. South Carolina, that's going to be the next big test in 2 weeks.